Only 17% of the organization have actually deployed AI agents so far. That's it. Just 17%. But 42% say they are planning to do it in the next 12 months. This is according to the Gartner 2026 CIO survey. And here's the number that worry you more. Gartner also predict that 40% of the agentic AI process will get cancelled by the end of 2027. Not because the model failed, because of the cost overrun, unclear business value, risk controls nobody bothered to build, and in 13 plus years of building enterprise AI systems, I can tell you exactly where that failure coming from. It's almost never the model, it's the orchestration. Hi, I am Manish Kumar. I'm a Microsoft certified Agentic AI business solution architect. And today, I want to walk you through the orchestration layer because this is the thing that decides whether your multi agent system actually works in production or it falls apart the second real users touch it. Let's get one thing straight. A single agent calling or a single tool is not agentic AI. That's just function calling wearing a fancier name. Real agentic AI means several specialist agents working together towards one business outcome. And Gartner actually maps this out as a maturity curve. Simple assistant in AI in 2025, task specific agents in 2026, and collaborative agents by 2027. Full agent ecosystem by 2028. So if you are comfortable only with a single agent setup right now, you're already a step behind where things are moving ahead. So what does this actually look like layer by layer? Let's walk through it. At the top, you have got the user or the business request itself, like a loan query or a claim request, or it can be a support ticket. Whatever it is, that goes through a gateway, which handles authentication and route the request into the system. Right below that sits the planner. And honestly, this is the brain of the whole thing. The planner takes a big goal and breaks it into a smaller task. Then it decides which agent handle which piece and in what order. Under the planner, you need a task manager. Think of it as a thing keeping track of where are the different processes being done and what's their progress. A loan approval, for example, might need underwriting data, then fraud scoring, or a compliance check. Without a task manager tracking state, all of that, you just end up with chaos instead of a workflow. Then comes the actual worker agent, each one narrowing, each one doing exactly one job well. One might extract just the data from the documents, another might just look up the policy information. So why keep them narrow like this? Because specialized agent is easier to test, easier to secure, and a lot easier to debug at 2 a.m. when something breaks, compared to one giant agent trying to do everything at once. Now, here's the layer almost nobody talks about, and it's becoming one of the most important ones. That's called the identity layer. Every single agent in your system needs its own identity, not a shared service account, not a borrowed user sessions, its own credential. Gartner had already flagged that as a huge chunk, which is 60% access credentials in environment of enterprises today. And it belonged to non-human identities like service accounts, or now it's called agents. That number is going to be going up only. So the agents get authenticated the same way you authenticate a person through a short-lived machine-to-machine token using something like a OAuth, and then it's authorized for exactly what it's allowed to touch, nothing more. Not broad access at the startup, scoped per task permission that expire fast. And why does it matter so much? Because if one agent credential gets compromised, it has the standing access to everything. You don't have an incident, you have an outage. Give it tightly scoped, short lived identity instead, and the blast radius shrink to almost nothing. Below that layer, worker sits in the tool layer, which is how the agent actually do the things in the real world, like calling APIs, hitting a database, kicking off a workflow. Right next to it is the memory, short-term memory for the current task and long-term memory across sessions. Skip this memory layer and your agent will forget everything the second the session ends. which is honestly defeats the entire purpose of it. Now, here's the part most of the tutorials completely skip. You need three more things wrapped around all of this: policies, which define what an agent can do on its own versus what needs to be human to sign off; observability, so you actually know why an agent made a decision, not just what it spat out; human in the loop approval for anything with a real financial, legal, or safety stakes. Why does that matter so much? Gartner's own 2026 hype cycle research says that fully autonomous agents just aren't ready for most of the enterprise use cases yet. And human oversight is going to stay essential for a while, with semi autonomous setup dominating the enterprise environments. So, if your architecture doesn't have approval gate built in somewhere, you're not building an enterprise system. You are building a lawsuit waiting to happen. On the Azure side, this is where the AI Foundry does the heavy lifting, tying together your planner, your worker agents, your tools, while the Microsoft Entra ID handles the identity and the authentication piece for every agent. Azure OpenAI plus Azure AI Search make sure every agent is grounded in real enterprise data instead of just guessing. And look, the numbers back this up too at the McKinsey. They found that 80% of the organizations are using AI in at least one of the business functions now, but most still haven't got deep enough to see a real business value from it. And that gap between adoption and actual value, that's exactly what a proper orchestration layer, identity, and all is built to close. Scattered tool will not exist. A planner, a task manager, an identity layer, a policy layer, all working together, that will scale. And I keep seeing this now. Building a single giant agent instead of a specialized much, which makes a debugging a nightmare. Two, it gives every agent a shared document instead of its own identity, which in turn compromises agent to a company-wide breach. And three, skipping the policy and approval layer completely will basically assuming full autonomy by default, which is exactly what Gartner points out when projects get cancelled. And number four, treating memory as optional. So the agent will forget everything mid process. And if you can walk into the room and explain this whole stack, which is planner, task manager, workers, identity, tools, memory, policies, and observability, you're not building a chatbot anymore. You are someone who can architect what Gartner says 80% of the enterprise will need by 2026. That's up from 5% today. And that's actually a skill gap companies are paying for right now. That's called orchestration. Identity layer included, broken down properly. If this made things click for you, stick around. I do this every week. Tell me in the comments which layer you want me to go next, deeper in my next video, whether it is planning, identity, or governance. See you in the next one.